My name is Shannon Wilkins, and I have the great pleasure of being the organizer of Poetry Out Loud for Los Angeles County Office of Education. And this particular contest is a national poetry recitation contest, which is brought to us by the National Endowment for the Arts, and in California is supported through the California Arts Council. And we are very, very honored this evening to have two members of the California Arts Council with us. Terry Lenahan and Michael Alexander are both members of the California Arts Council. So as you can see, there's a lot of people who have come around to support this very wonderful event. And I'm anxious to hear some absolutely wonderful poetry, and I know you are too. So I'm going to ask our very first contestant to come up. This is Bianca Tolentino, and she is from Whitney High School, which is right here in Cerritos, and she's an 11th grader.
Cartoon Physics Part 1 by Nick Flynn. Children under, say, 10 shouldn't know that the universe is ever expanding, inexorably pushing into the vacuum. Galaxies swallowed by galaxies, whole solar systems collapsing. All of this acted out in silence. At 10, we are still learning the rules of cartoon animation. That if a man draws a door on a rock, only he can pass through it. Anyone else who tries will crash into the rock. 10-year-olds should stick with burning houses, car wrecks, ships going down. Earthbound, tangible disasters. Arenas where they can be heroes. You can run back into a burning house. Sinking ships have lifeboats. The trucks will come with their ladders. If you jump, you will be saved. A child places her hand on the roof of a school bus and drives across a city of sand. She knows the exact spot it will skid, at which point the bridge will give. Who will swim to safety and who will be pulled under by sharks? She will learn that if a man runs off the edge of a cliff, he will not fall until he notices his mistake.
A March in the Ranks Hard Pressed and the Road Unknown by Walt Whitman. A march in the ranks hard-pressed, and the road unknown. A route through a heavy wood with muffled steps in the darkness. Our army foiled with loss severe, and the sullen remnant retreating. Till after midnight glimmer upon us the lights of a dim-lighted building. We come to an open space in the woods and halt by the dim-lighted building. And 'tis a large old church at the crossing roads, now an impromptu hospital. Entering but for a minute, I see a sight beyond all the pictures and poems ever made. Shadows of deepest, deepest black, just lit by moving candles and lamps. And by one great pitchy torch stationary with wild red flame and clouds of smoke by these. Crowds, groups of forms vaguely I see on the floor, some in the pews laid down. At my feet, more distinctly, a soldier, a mere lad, in danger of bleeding to death. He is shot in the abdomen. I stanched the blood temporarily. The youngster's face is white as a lily. Then, before I depart, I sweep my eyes over the scene, fain to absorb it all. Faces, varieties, postures beyond description, most in obscurity, some of them dead. Surgeons operating, attendants holding lights, the smell of ether, the odor of blood, the crowd. Oh, the crowd, the bloody forms. The yard outside also filled. Some on the bare ground, some on planks or stretchers, some in the death spasm sweating. An occasional scream or cry, the doctor shouted orders or calls, the glisten of the little steel instruments catching the glint of the torches. These I resume as I chant. I see again the forms. I smell the odor. Then hear outside the orders given. Fall in, my men, fall in, but first. I bend to the dying lad. His eyes open. A half smile gives he me. Then the eyes close, calmly close, and I speed forth to the darkness, resuming, marching, ever in darkness marching, on in the ranks, the unknown road still marching.
My poem is Ah, Why Because the Dazzling Sun by Emily Bronte. Ah, why because the dazzling sun restored my earth to joy. Have you departed, everyone, and left a desert sky? All through the night your glorious eyes were gazing down in mine, and with a full heart's thankful sighs, I bless that watch divine. I was at peace, and drank your beams as they were life to me, and reveled in my changeful dreams like petrel on the sea. Thought followed thought, star followed star through boundless regions on, while one sweet influence, near and far, thrilled through and proved us one. Why did the morning rise to break so great, so pure a spell, and scorch with fire the tranquil cheek where your cool radiance fell? Blood red he rose, an arrow straight, his fierce beam struck my brow, the souls of nature sprang elate, but mine sank sad and low. My lids closed down, yet through their veil I saw him blazing still, and bathed in gold the misty dell and flash upon the hill. I turned me to my pillow then, to call back night, and see your world of solemn light again throb with my heart and me. It would not do. The pillow glowed and glowed both roof and floor, and birds sang loudly in the woods, and fresh winds shook the door. The curtains waved, the wakened flies were murmuring round my room, imprisoned there, till I should rise and give them leave to roam. O stars and dreams and gentle nights, O nights and stars, return, and hide me from the hostile light that does not warm but burn, that drains the blood of suffering men, drinks tears instead of dew. Let me sleep through his blinding rain and only wake with you. Thank you.
One Art by Elizabeth Bishop. The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost that their loss is no disaster. Lose something every day, except the fluster of lost door keys, the hour badly spent. Then practice losing farther, losing faster, places and names and where it was you meant to travel. None of these will bring disaster. I lost my mother's watch, and look, my last, or next to last, of 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. I lost 2 cities, lovely ones, and vaster, some realms I owned, 2 rivers, a continent. I missed them, but it wasn't a disaster. Even losing you, the joking laugh, a gesture I love, I shan't not lie. It's evident that the art of losing is not too hard to master, though it may seem like, write it, like disaster. Thank you.
Discrimination by Kenneth Rexroth. I don't mind the human race. I've got pretty used to them in these past 25 years. I don't mind if they sit next to me on streetcars or eat in the same restaurants, if it's not at the same table. However, I don't approve of a woman I respect dancing with one of them. I've tried asking them to my home without success. I shouldn't care to see my own sister marry one. Even if she loved him, think of the children. Their art is interesting, but certainly barbarous. I'm sure, if given a chance, they'd kill us all in our beds. And you must admit, they smell. Thank you.
The Obligation to Be Happy by Linda Paston. It is more onerous than the rights of beauty, housework, harder than love. But you expect it of me casually. The way you expect the sun to come up, not in spite of rain or clouds, but because of them. And so I smile, as if my own fidelity to sadness were a hidden vice. That downward tug on my mouth, my old suspicion that health and love are brief irrelevancies. No more than laughter in the warm dark, strangled at dawn. Happiness. I try to hoist it on my narrow shoulders again, a knapsack heavy with gold coins. I stumble around the house, bump into things. Only Midas himself would understand.
Old Ironsides by Oliver Wendell Holmes. I tear her tattered ensign down, but long has it waved on high, and many an eye has danced to see that banner in the sky. Beneath it rung the battle shout, and burst the cannon's roar. But the meteor of the ocean air shall sweep the clouds no more. Her deck, once red with heroes' blood, where knelt the vanquished foe, when winds were hurrying over the flood and waves were white below, no more shall feel the victor's tread or know the conquered knee, but the harpies of the shore shall pluck the eagle of the sea. Oh, better that her shattered hulk should sink beneath the wave. Her thunders shook the mighty deep, and there should be her grave. Nail to the mast her holy flag, set every threadbare sail, and give her to the god of storms, the lightning and the gale. Thank you.
And soul. by Yvonne Boland. My mother died one summer, the wettest in the records of the state. Crops rotted in the west, checked tablecloths dissolved in back gardens, empty deck chairs collected rain. As I took my way to her, through traffic, through lilacs dripping blackly behind houses and on curbsides, to pay her the last tribute of a daughter, I thought of something. I remembered I heard once that the body is, or is said to be, almost all water. And as I turned southward, that ours is a city of it, one in which every single day the elements begin a journey towards each other that will never, given our weather, fail. The ocean visible and the edges cut by it, cloud color reaching into air, the Liffey storing one and summoning the other, salt greeting the lack of it at the north wall, and as if that wasn't enough, all of it ending up almost every evening inside our speech. Coast, canal, ocean, river, stream, and now mother. And I drove on. And although the mind is unreliable in grief, at the next cloudburst, it almost seemed they could be shades of each other. The way the body is of every one of them, and now they were on the move again. Fog into mist, mist into sea spray, and both into the oily glaze that lay on the railings of the house she was dying in as I went inside.
Invictus by William Ernest Henley. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Thank you.
I'm a Fool to Love You by Cornelius Eady. Some folks will tell you the blues is a woman, some type of supernatural creature. My mother would tell you, if she could, about her life with my father, strange and sometimes cruel gentleman. She would tell you about the choices a young black woman faces. Is fall in love with some man a deal with devil? In blue terms, the tongue we use when we don't want nuance to get in the way, when we need to talk straight. My mother chose my father. After choosing a man who was, as we sing it, of no account, this man made my father look good. That's how bad it was. He made my father seem like an island in the middle of a stormy sea. He made my father look like a rock. And it's the blues the moment you realize you exist in a stacked deck. You look in the mirror at your young face, the face my sister carries, and you know it's the only leverage you got. Does this create a hurt that whisper? How you gonna do? Is the blues the moment you shrug your shoulders and agree? A girl without money is nothing. Dust to be pushed around by any old breeze. Compared to this, my father seems briefly to be a fire escape. And this is the way the blues work to sorry wonder. Makes trouble look like a featherbed. Makes the wrong man's kisses a healing. Thank you.
Abandoned Farmhouse by Ted Kuzer. He was a big man, just the size of his shoes and a pile of broken dishes by the house. A tall man, too, says the length of the bed in an upstairs room. And a good, God-fearing man, says the Bible with the broken back on the floor below the window, dusty with the sun. But not a man for farming, say the fields cluttered with boulders and the leaky barn. A woman lived with him, says the bedroom walls papered with lilacs and the kitchen shelves covered with oilcloth. And they had a child, says the sandbox made from a tractor tire. Money was scarce, say the jars of plum preserves and canned tomatoes sealed in the cellar hole. And the winter's cold, say the rags in the window frames. It was lonely here, says the narrow country road. Something went wrong, says the empty house in the weed-choked yard. Stones in the field say he was not a farmer. The still seal jars in the cellar say she left in a nervous haste. And the child? Its toys are strewn across the yard like branches after a storm. A rubber cow, a rusty tractor with a broken plow, a doll in overalls. Something went wrong, they say.
I am offering this poem by Jimmy Santiago Vaca. I am offering this poem to you since I have nothing else to give. Keep it like a warm coat when winter comes to cover you, or like a pair of thick socks the cold cannot bite through. I love you. I have nothing else to give you, so it is a pot full of yellow corn to warm your belly in winter. It is a scarf for your head to wear over your hair to tie up around your face. I love you. Keep it. Treasure this as you would if you were lost. Needing direction in the wilderness life becomes when mature. And in the corner of your drawer, tucked away like a cabin or Hogan in dense trees, come knocking, and I will answer, give you directions, and let you warm yourself by this fire. Rest
by this fire and make you feel safe. I love you. It's all I have to give and all anyone needs to live. And to go on living inside when the world outside no longer cares if you live or die. Remember, I love you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is India Thompson, and I will be reciting A Poison Tree by William Blake. I was angry with a friend. I told my wrath did end. I was angry with my foe. I told it not. My wrath did grow. And I watered it in fears, night and morning with my tears, and I sunned it with smiles and with soft, deceitful wiles. And it grew both day and night until it bore an apple bright, and my foe beheld it shine, and he knew that it was mine, and into my garden stole when the night had veiled the pole. In the morning, glad, I see my foe outstretched beneath the tree. Thank you.
Ecology by Jack Collum. Surrounded by bone, surrounded by cells, by rings of hell, by hair, surrounded by air is a thing, surrounded by actual, yes, for practical purposes, people. Surrounded by surreal popcorn, surrounded by the reborn. Surrender in the center to surroundings. Oh, surrender forever, never enter. Let her blend around. Surrender to the surroundings that surround the tender endo. Surrender that tumble through the tumbling to that blue that curls around the crumbling to that. The blue that rumbles under the sun. Bounding the pearl that we walk on, talk on, we can chalk that up to experience, sensing the brown here that's blue now, a drop of water surrounding a cow that's black and white. The warbling Blackburnian twitter that's machining midnight orange in the light, that's glittering in the light green visible wind. That's the ticket to the tunnel through the thicket. That's a cricket's funnel of music to correct and pick it out from under the wing that whirls up, over, and out.
Immigrant Picnic by Gregory Zhizhinikian. It's the 4th of July. The flags are painting the town. The plastic forks and knives are laid out like a parade. And I'm grilling. I've got my apron. I've got potato salad, macaroni relish. I've got a hat shaped like the state of Pennsylvania. I ask my father what's his pleasure, and he says, hot dog, medium rare. And then, hamburger, sure, what's the big difference? As if he's really asking. I put on hamburgers and hot dogs, slice up the sour pickles and Bermudas, uncap the condiments. The paper napkins are fluttering away like lost messages. You're running around, my mother says, like a chicken with its head loose. Ma, I say, you mean cut off. Loose and cut off, being as far apart as, say, son and daughter. She gives me a quizzical look, as though I've been caught in some impropriety. You're both our children, so why worry, she says. Sure, my grandmother pipes in. That's not the point, I begin telling them. And I'm comparing words to fish now, like the ones in the sea at Port Said, or like birds among the date palms by the Nile, unrepentantly elusive, wild. Sonia, my father says to my mother, what the hell is he talking about? He's on a ball, my mother says. That's roll, I say, throwing my hands up, as in hot dog, hamburger, dinner roll. And what about roll out the barrels, my mother asks. And my father claps his hands. Why, sure, he says, let's have some fun. And launches into a polka, twirling my mother around and around like the happiest top. And my uncle is shaking his head, saying, you could grow nuts listening to us. And I'm thinking of pistachios in the Sinai, burgeoning without end, pecans in the South, the jumbled flavor of them suddenly in my mouth, wordless, confusing, crowding out everything else.
I am offering this poem by Jimmy Santiago Baca. I am offering this poem to you since I have nothing else to give. Keep it like a warm coat when winter comes to cover you, or like a pair of thick socks the cold cannot bite through. I love you. I have nothing else to give you, so it is a pot full of yellow corn to warm your belly in winter. It is a scarf for your head to tie over your face, to wear over your hair. I love you. Keep it. Treasure this as you would if you were lost, needing direction in the wilderness life becomes when mature. And in the corner of your drawer, tucked away like a cabin or hogan in dense trees, come knocking, and I will answer, give you directions, and let you warm yourself by this fire, rest by this fire, and make you feel safe. I love you. It's all I have to give, and all anyone needs to live, and to go on living inside. When the world outside no longer cares if you live or die, remember, I love you. Thank you.
My poem is called The End of Science Fiction by Lysel Mueller. This is not fantasy. This is our life. We are the characters who have invaded the moon, who cannot stop their computers. We are the gods who can unmake the world in 7 days. Both hands are stopped at noon. We are beginning to live forever in lightweight aluminum bodies with numbers stamped on our backs. We dial our words like music. We hear each other through water. The genre is dead. Invent something new. Invent a man and a woman naked in a garden. Invent a child that will save the world. A man who carries his father out of a burning city. Invent a spool of thread that leads a hero to safety. Invent an island on which he abandons the woman who saved his life with no loss of sleep over his betrayal. Invent us as we were before our bodies glittered and we stopped bleeding. Invent a shepherd who kills a giant, a girl who grows into a tree, A woman who refuses to turn her back on the past and is changed to salt. A boy who steals his brother's birthright and becomes the head of a nation. Invents real tears, hard love, slow-spoken ancient words, difficult as a child's first steps across a room. Thank you.
La Belle Dame sans Merci, a ballad by John Keats. Oh, what can ail thee, knight-at-arms, alone and palely loitering? The sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing. Oh, what can ail thee, knight-at-arms, so haggard and so woe-begone? The squirrel's granary is full, and the harvest done. I see a lily on thy brow, with anguish moist and fever dew, and on thy cheeks a fading rose, fast withereth too. I met a lady in the meads, full beautiful, a fairy's child. Her hair was long, her foot was light, and her eyes were wild. I made a garland for her head, and bracelets too, and fragrant zone, she looked at me as she did love, and made a sweet moan. I set her on my pacing steed, and nothing else saw all day long, for sidelong would she bend and sing a fairy song. She found me roots of relish sweet, and honey wild and manna dew, and sure in language strange she said, I love thee true. She took me to her elfin grot, and there she wept and sighed full sore, and there I shut her wild, wild eyes with kisses four. And there she lulled me asleep, and there I dreamed. Ah, woe betide, the latest dream I ever dreamt on the cold hillside. I saw pale kings and princes too, pale warriors, death pale were they all. They cried, La Belle Dame sans Merci, thee hath in thrall. I saw their starved lips in the gloam, with horrid warning gaped wide, and I awoke and found me here on the cold hillside. And this is why I sojourn here, alone and palely loitering, though the sedge is withered from the lake, and no birds sing.
The Good Morrow by John Donne. I wonder, by my troth, what thou and I did till we loved. Were we not weaned till then, but sucked on country pleasures childishly, or snorted we in the seven sleepers' den? 'Twas so, but this, all pleasures fancies be. If ever any beauty I did see, which I desired and got, 'twas but a dream of thee. And now, good morrow to our waking souls, which watch not one another out of fear, for love, all love of other sights, controls, and makes one little room and everywhere. Let sea discoverers to new worlds have gone, let maps to other. Worlds on worlds have shone. Let us possess one world. Each hath one and is one. My face in thine eye, and thine in mine appears, and true
plain hearts do in the faces rest. Where can we find two better hemispheres without sharp north, without declining west? Whatever dies was not mixed equally. If our two loves be one, or thou and I loved so alike that none do slacken, none can die.
Backdrop addresses Cowboy by Margaret Atwood. Star-spangled cowboy, sauntering out of the almost silly west, on your face a porcelain grin, tugging a papier-mâché cactus on wheels behind you with a string. You are innocent as a bathtub full of bullets. Your righteous eyes, your laconic trigger fingers people the streets with villains. As you move, the air in front of you blossoms with targets. And you leave behind you a heroic trail of desolation. Beer bottles slaughtered by the side of the road. Bird skulls bleaching in the sunset. I ought to be watching from behind a cliff or a cardboard storefront when the shooting starts, hands clasped in admiration, but I am elsewhere. Then what about me? What about the eye confronting you on that border you are always trying to cross? I am the horizon you ride towards, the thing you can never lasso. I am also what surrounds you, my brain scattered with your tin cans, bones, empty shells, the litter of your invasions. I am the space you desecrate as you pass through.
Constantly Risking Absurdity by Lawrence Ferlinghetti. Constantly risking absurdity and death whenever he performs above the heads of his audience. The poet, like an acrobat, climbs on rhyme to a high wire of his own making and, balancing on I-beams above a sea of faces, paces his way to the other side of day, performing entreshaws and sleight-of-foot tricks and other high theatrics, and all without mistaking anything for what it may not be. For he's the super realist who must perforce perceive taught truth before the taking of each stance or step in a supposed advance toward that still higher perch where beauty stands and waits with gravity to start her death-defying leap. And he, a little Charlie Chaplin man who may or may not catch her fair eternal form, spread-eagled in the empty air of existence.
The Oldest Living Thing in LA by Larry Levis. At Wilshire and Santa Monica, I saw a possum trying to cross the street. It was late. The street was brightly lit. The possum would take a few steps forward, then back away from the breath of moving traffic. People coming out of the bars would approach, as if to help it somehow. It would lift its black lips and show them the reddened gums, the long rows of incisors, teeth that went all the way back beyond the flames of Troy and Carthage, beyond sheep-grazing rock-strewn hills, fragments of ruins in the grass at San Vital. it would back away, delicately and smoothly, stepping carefully as it always had. It could mangle someone's hand in 20 seconds, mangle it for good. It could sever it completely from the wrist in 40. There was nothing to be done for it. Someone or other probably called the LAPD, who then called animal control, who woke a driver, who dressed in mailed gloves, the kind of thing small knights once wore into battle, who gathered together his pole with a noose on the end, a light steel net to snare it with, someone who hoped the thing would have vanished by the time he got there.
Every Single Day by John Stranley. Suppose I said the word springtime, and I wrote the words King Salmon on a piece of paper and mailed it to you. When you opened it, would you remember that afternoon we spent together in the yellow boat? When the early whales were feeding and we caught our first fish of the year? Or would you remember the time off Cape Flattery when you were a little girl, your father smoking, telling stories as he ran the boat? Then the tug and zing of that very first fish spooling out onto the gray-green world. You laughing, brushing back your hair before you set the hook? I know I'm hard to understand sometimes, particularly when you're at the post office with a piece of paper saying King Salmon on it. But think of it as a promissory note. And that electric tug, that thrill, pulling your mind into deep water, is how I feel about you every single day.
Testimonial by Rita Dove. Back when the earth was new and heaven just a whisper. Back when the names of things hadn't had time to stick. Back when the smallest breezes melted summer into autumn. When all the poplars quivered sweetly in rank and file. The world called, and I answered. Each glance ignited a gaze. I caught my breath and called that life, swooned between spoonfuls of lemon sorbet. I was pirouette and flourish, I was filigree and flame. How could I count my blessings if I didn't know their names? Back when everything was still to come, luck leaked out everywhere. I gave my promise to the world, and the world followed me here. Thank you.
Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. Whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him. He was a gentleman from soul to crown, clean-favored and imperially slim. And he was always quietly arrayed, and he was always human when he talked. But still, he fluttered pulses when he said, "Good morning," and he glittered when he walked. And he was rich, yes, richer than a king, and admirably schooled in every grace. In fine, we thought that he was everything to make us wish that we were in his place. So on we worked and waited for the light, and went without the meat and cursed the bread. And Richard Cory, one calm summer night, went home and put a bullet through his head. Thank you.
Immortal Autumn by Archibald MacLeish. I speak this poem now with grave and level voice, in praise of autumn, of the far-horn winding fall. I praise the flower-barren fields, the clouds, the tall, unanswering branches where the wind makes sullen noise. I praise the fall. It is the human season. Now, no more the foreign sun does meddle at our earth, enforce the green or bring the fallow land to birth, nor winter yet weigh all with silence the pine bough. But now, in autumn with the black and outcast crows share we the spacious world. The whispering year is gone. There is more room to live now. The once secret dawn comes late by daylight and the dark unguarded goes. Between the mutinous brave burning of the leaves and winter's covering of our hearts with his deep snow, we are alone. There are no evening birds. We know the naked moon. The tame stars circle at our eaves. It is the human season. On this sterile air do words outcarry breath. The sound goes on and on. I hear a dead man's cry from autumn long since gone. I cry to you beyond, upon this bitter air. Thank you.
The Empty Dance Shoes by Cornelius Eady. My friends, as it has been proven in the laboratory, an empty pair of dance shoes will sit on the floor like a wart until it is given a reason to move. Those of us who study inertia, those of us covered with wild hair and sleep, can state this without fear. The energy in a pair of shoes at rest is about the same as that of a clown knocked flat by a sandbag. This you can tell your friends with certainty. A clown flat on his back is a lot like an empty pair of dancing shoes. An empty pair of dancing shoes is also a lot like a leaf pressed in a book. And now you know a simple truth. A leaf pressed in, say, The Colossus by Sylvia Plath is no different from an empty pair of dance shoes. Even if those shoes are in the middle of the Stardust Ballroom with all the lights on and hot music shakes the windows up and down the block, this is the secret of inertia. The shoes run on their own sense of the world. They are in sympathy with the rock the kid skips over the lake after it settles to the mud. Not with the ripples, but with the rock. A practical and personal application of inertia can be found in the question, whose turn is it to take out the garbage? An empty pair of dance shoes is a lot like the answer to this question, as well as book-length poems set in the Midwest. To sum up, an empty pair of dance shoes is a lot like the sand. The 98-pound weakling brushes from his cheeks as the bully tows away his girlfriend. Later, when he spies the coupon at the back of the comic book, he is about to act upon a different set of scientific principles. He is ready to dance.
The Maldive Shark by Herman Melville. About the shark, phlegmatical one, pale sot of the Maldives Sea. The sleek little pilot fish, azure and slim, how alert in attendance be. From his saw pit of mouth, from his charnel of maw, they have nothing of harm to dread, but liquidly glide on his ghastly flank or before his Gorgonian head, or lurk in the port of serrated teeth, in white triple tiers of glittering gates, and there find a haven when peril's abroad, an asylum in jaws of the fates. They are friends, and friendly they guide him to prey, yet never partake of the treat, eyes and brains to the dotard, lethargic, and dull, pale ravener of horrible meat. Thank you.
Sea Fever by John Mayfield. I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely sea and the sky. And all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by, and the wheels kick and the wind song and the white sails shaking, and a gray mist on the sea's face and a gray dawn breaking. I must go down to the seas again for the call of the running tide. It's a wild call and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying, and the flung spray, and the blown spume, and the seagulls crying. I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gull's way and the whale's way, where the wind's like a whetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a fat, laughing fellow rover, and quiet sleep and sweet dream when the long trick's over. Thank you.
After working 60 hours again, for what reason? The best job I had was moving a stone from one side of the road to the other. This required a permit, which required a bribe. The bribe took all my salary. Yet, because I hadn't completed the job, I had no salary, and to pay the bribe, I took a job moving the stone the other way. Because the official wanted his bribe, he gave me a permit for the second job. When I pointed out that the job would be best completed if I did nothing, he complimented my brain and wrote a letter to my employer suggesting promotion on stationery bearing the wings of a raptor spread in flight over a mountain smaller than the bird. My boss, fearing my intelligence, paid me to sleep on the sofa and take lunch with the official who required the bribe to prevent anything from being done. When I told my parents, they wrote my brother to come home from university to be smacked on the back of the head. Dutifully, he arrived and bowed to receive his instruction, at which point sense entered his body and he asked what I could do by way of a job. I pointed out there were stones everywhere trying not to move. All it took was a little gumption to be the man who didn't move them. It was harder explaining the intricacies of not obtaining a permit to not do this. Just yesterday, he got up at dawn and shaved, as if the lack of hair on his face had anything to do with the appearance of food on an empty table.
Deliberate by Amy Uematsu. So, by 16, We move in packs, learn to strut and slide in deliberate, low-down rhythm. Talk in a syncopated beat, because we want so bad to be cool, never to be mistaken for white, even when we leave these rowdier LA streets. Remember how we paint our eyes like gangsters, flash our legs in nylons, sassy black high heels, or 2-inch zippered boots. Stack them by the door at night next to daddy's muddy gardening shoes. Thank you. My name is India Thompson, and I will be reciting One Art by Elizabeth Bishop. The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost that their loss is no disaster. Lose something every day, except the fluster of lost door keys, the hour badly spent. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Then practice losing farther, losing faster. Places and names, where it was you meant to travel, none of these will bring disaster. I lost my mother's watch. And look, my last, or next to last, of 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. I lost 2 cities, lovely ones, and vaster, some realms I own, 2 rivers, a continent. I miss them, but it wasn't a disaster. Even losing you, the joking voice, a gesture I love, I shan't have lied. It's evident the art of losing's not too hard to master, though it may look like, write it, like a disaster.
Requests for Toy Piano by Tony Hoagland. Play the one about the family of the ducks, where the ducks go down to the river and one of them thinks the water will be cold, but then they jump in anyway and like it and splash around. No, I must play the one about the nervous man from Palestine in row 14 with a brown bag in his lap, in which a gun is hidden in a sandwich. Play the one about the handsome man and woman standing on the steps of her apartment and how the darkness and her perfume and the beating of their hearts conjoin to make them feel like leaping from the edge of chance. No. I should play the one about the hard rectangle of the credit card hidden in the man's back pocket and how the woman spent an hour plucking out her brows, and now her perfume is made from the destruction of 100 flowers. Then play the one about the flower industry in which the migrant workers curse their own infected hands from tossing sheaves of roses and carnations into the back of the refrigerated trucks. No. I must play the one about the single yellow daffodil standing on my kitchen table, whose cut stem draws the water upwards, so the plant is flush with the conviction that the water has been sent to find and raise it up from somewhere so deep inside the earth, not even flowers can remember.
A Noiseless, Patient Spider by Walt Whitman. A noiseless, patient spider, I marked, where on a little promontory it stood isolated. Marked how to explore the vacant vast surrounding, it launched forth filament. Filament, filament, out of itself, ever unreeling them, ever tirelessly speeding them. And you, Oh, my soul, where you stand, surrounded, detached in measureless oceans of space, ceaselessly musing, venturing, throwing, seeking the spheres to connect them, till the bridge you will need be formed, till the ductile anchor hold, till the gossamer thread you fling catch somewhere. Oh, my soul.
Caged Bird by Maya Angelou. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream to the current ends and dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The cage bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the cage bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, the trade wind soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn-bright lawn, and he named the sky his own. But a cage bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped, and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The cage bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. Thank you.
This poem is called Enough by Suzanne Buffum. I am wearing dark glasses inside the house to match my dark mood. I have left all the sugar out of the pie. My rage is a kind of domestic rage. I learned it from my mother, who learned it from her mother before her, and so on. Surely the Greeks had a word for this. Now, surely the Germans do. The more words a person knows to describe her private sufferings, the more distantly she can perceive them. I repeat the names of all the cities I've known and watch an ant drag its crooked shadow home. What does it mean to love the life we've been given? To act well the part that's been cast for us? Wind, light, fire, time. A train whistles through the far hills. One day I plan to be writing it. Thank you.
Sonnet 29, When in Disgrace with Fortune in Men's Eyes, by William Shakespeare. When, in disgrace with fortune in men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy, content at least. Yet, in these thoughts myself almost despising, haply I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings.
No Coward Soul is Mine by Emily Bronte. No coward soul is mine, no trembler in the world's storm-troubled sphere. I see heaven's glory shine, and faith shines equal, arming me from fear. O God within my breast, almighty, ever-present deity, life that in me hast rest, as I, undying life, have power in thee. Vain are the thousand creeds that move men's hearts, unutterably vain, worthless as withered weeds, or idlest froth amid the boundless main. To waken doubt in one, holding so fast by thy infinity, so surely anchored on the steadfast rock of immortality. With wide embracing love, thy spirit animates eternal years, pervades and broods above, changes, sustains, dissolves, creates, and rears. Though earth and moon were gone, and suns and universes ceased to be, and thou wert left alone, every existence would exist in thee. There is not room for death, nor atom that his might could render void. For thou art being and breath, and what thou art may never be destroyed.
Each one of you has to be extremely proud, realizing that from your school district, from your school, you have gotten to this incredible level of presentation. And I want to congratulate the teachers, and I want to congratulate the parents, because they wouldn't be here if you weren't doing your jobs as well. And so I thank you.
And it is with great pleasure that our runner-up for this year is Mohib Joffrey. Mohib, there is a gift card in there for $50 for you to buy some poetry for yourself. And our winner this evening, and the person who will be traveling to Sacramento to represent Los Angeles County for the next stage of this contest, is Alexander Liu. And Alexander, there is a gift card for $100 for you, because you're going to need a third poem to go up to Sacramento and compete. So you're not quite done, but there's also some things, that information for you in the packets as well. And to everyone, thank you for the magnificent evening of poetry that you have given us. I don't think any of us will ever forget it. It's been superb. Thank you.